I love your home already, and I haven't even seen it. Does that sound crazy? It's not. When we improve our surroundings, we simultaneously empower ourselves, which means every inch of space within your reach right now is an opportunity to tell the story you want to be living. Tell me that's not its own kind of wonderful. I have spent the last 15 years consulting clients and their homes through the wisdom of Feng Shui, intentional design, and some crystal clear communication. And you know what happens when you bring those three together? Life-changing magic. Your home is already in a conversation with you, so why not learn how to merge that awareness with some simple, straightforward, and smart action to co-create the life you want? I'm Amanda Gibby Peters, and I'm here to help you learn how. Welcome to House Therapy. So one of the questions I get asked most is, how did you get started in Feng Shui? And people are always surprised when I say that I came into this practice as a huge skeptic. I did not see the logic of how my house was somehow going to help improve my life circumstances. So I truly came into this adversarially. And because our current home is what got me into all of this in the first place, that's exactly where we're going to begin the House Therapy podcast. So a little backdrop to the story I'm going to tell you. My husband's job had decided to relocate us to Texas. So we spent a weekend down here looking for houses and literally found ours, the one where everything changed for me, on our way back to the airport. We did a quick walkthrough, rushed in our offer, and we were on our plane back home. And as soon as we landed, we found out that the offer had been accepted. So within a couple months, here we are unpacking our boxes. And immediately I could sense that something was off in our new space, but I really just blamed it on the restlessness of a quick move. A few more details you need to know. At the time, I had just finished graduate school and my plans were to go on and get my PhD, but with this new job for my husband, he had a bigger territory and a lot more travel. Pair that with the twins, who were 3 at the time, and definitely strong belief system that you never let them see you sleep. So here we are, big life changes, unexpected disruptions. I was going to have to take a pause on my own path. And to top it off, we're in a brand new to us town. If you were to come over and look at our house, it had all the amenities we asked for, the little checklist you give the realtor, completely satisfied that way, but it didn't feel like home. And even though I had the strong sense something was off, I just kept ignoring it, mostly because I was overwhelmed. And when I get overwhelmed, I tend to get still. And I think still is good until it becomes stuck. Because anyone who's been stuck for a long time knows that you can appear totally chill on the outside, but inside you are screaming for something, really anything to soothe, salve, or stimulate you back to life, right? So one more tiny detail to add to the story. This was around the same time that the book The Secret was circuiting. So like a lot of people, I had read it and I wanted to believe that I was really going to change my life with a few specific enough affirmations. But my wiring really liked to lean into decisions cerebrally. Like I have this thing for hard proof because it furnished me a sense of control. The thing is, I was in a perpetual moment of need and things were just getting worse. So here I am one day trying to keep myself from coming completely undone. I'm sitting on the floor by my bed and I grab my copy of the book and I decide I'm going to treat it like an oracle. And this was way before we had all these fabulous decks where you can pull a card. I decided to treat the book like the oracle, and I very much was summoning an answer. And when the book fell open, I saw 2 words, Feng Shui. Now, I had seen those words before wandering through bookstores in college, but I'd never really put my fingerprints on them. And the little that I did know honestly sounded a little too abstract for my liking. Remember, big fan here of logic, facts, pros and cons. But I couldn't shake that something was really different about us in this new house. And there was one particular punch that was leaving bruises on our marriage: money. It came in, but our cost of living had gone up significantly. So as soon as the money arrived, it was gone. And this only seemed to be getting worse. All of this as we're trying to get our footing in this new home and new to us town. So, harboring all my skepticism, I decided to just start researching Feng Shui and discovered that, according to the experts, my house was, and I quote, already in a state of Feng Shui, that if you change your home, you change your life. Okay, I was eye rolling when I read that because, literally I had just changed homes and this is what I get. But here's where it gets interesting. That explanation sparked a little fire in me, and so I decided I was going to blog about Feng Shui, but my slant was going to be how it doesn't work. And with that, a revival. So I purchased and read my first Feng Shui book, and because our financial cushion was threadbare, my focus was easy. It was all about the money, honey. So here's how I approached my hypothesis. I went through the book and I highlighted all the recommendations for improving wealth, prosperity, abundance, and I decided to pick 3 to get my experiment rolling. And the first on my to-do list was buy fresh flowers. Now, total transparency, I can still remember this day like it was yesterday. I was sitting in the grocery store parking lot. I had just gotten off the phone with a creditor to negotiate a payment, and I was asking myself, are you really going to go in there and buy flowers when things are like this? It felt incredibly self-indulgent, entirely irresponsible, and the waves of guilt were not stopping. But I cannot emphasize this enough. The only reason I was able to go through with it was I refused to quit on my experiment this quickly. In fact, the way I kind of got it organized in my mind was I was setting Feng Shui up to either make a really good first quick impression or I was going to make my case really quickly. Either way, I went in, I bought the blooms, and I can tell you, I remember they were $4 Stargazer lilies. A week later, I was buying a tabletop water fountain. This was another cure that it seemed a lot of the authors and experts recommended. Of course, I had steep reservations about it because of the cost, because it wasn't something I would typically work with or work into my decor, but moving water was heralded as a cure that delivers quick money results. And I placed it in what I had identified as our career areas. So for those of you who are familiar with Feng Shui in the Bagua, you know that the career area is home to the element of water. All right, so the third thing that I did was add purple. This is the color that it seemed most Feng Shui practitioners were associating with the wealth area, and that happened to be in our kitchen. So I was feeling a little spent from the flowers and a lot of spent from the water fountain, so I decided I was going to keep this simple. I put some purple Sharpies in a kitchen drawer. I taped some purple construction paper on the underneath side of our kitchen table, and that was that. So what happened? Well, at first, honestly, I just kept making more home improvements. I was replacing some burned out light bulbs. We had some thorny rose bushes by the front door that I pulled, and I was really throwing out anything that felt like clutter in our new home. You know, those things that had made the move with us here, but had yet to find their own place to live. And looking back on it now, I can tell you that Feng Shui was becoming an addictive distraction because there was always something to do. But here is where things get interesting. While I was busying myself with what to do next, in the spirit of disproving this practice, lest we forget, my husband was offered a new job that almost doubled his salary. And that preschool that we'd really hoped to get our daughters in, the one that had been completely full just a few months earlier, suddenly had 2 openings in the same class on the same day. All of this within just a couple months of me starting my Shui challenge. Now, I'm going to be honest, the relief felt so good. But what really surprised me was that our home was feeling a lot less like a stranger in our lives. Okay, so this is the part when I become obsessed with Feng Shui, right? A new job with an even better salary and the preschool thing. You'd think I was like, okay, Feng Shui, you officially have my attention. But nope, I was still wavering. I was pretty much thinking this is all just a really lucky coincidence. So I mean, as a side note, whenever I have reticent clients who say this to me, I totally get it because guess what? I was there first. I decided I was going to give Feng Shui one more test. And since our cash flow situation had recently improved, I decided I was going to be very particular about this. So I was going to look for a part-time job that had to satisfy two requirements. One, I could work from home, and two, I needed to make a specific salary. So I found 3 companies that I would love working for. Mind you, and none of them had openings. I sent in my resume and a letter introducing myself to all 3, and all 3 companies replied. Within a week, I had an interview at all 3 companies. And in fact, I got to meet the CEO of all 3 companies. And at the end of that week, all 3 had offered me a job. That's pretty impressive, right? But wait, this is when the story gets really good. So there were 2 jobs that I really, really wanted. They were a little more glam. One was a big PR company here in Dallas with big client names, like names you would know. And then the other one was a publishing house. The third job, though, was the one that offered me exactly what I wanted, the opportunity to work from home and pay me what I asked for. So, glam be damned, I took the job behind door number 3. Within a couple months, the economic floor fell out from under the US, and those first 2 dreamy job/companies were sending people out the doors in droves. And no doubt I would have been one of them. Instead, I was employed in a freelance role with a nonprofit that was associated with the State Department. And so I was able to stay on in that position for an entire year. That got my attention. That's when Feng Shui appeared bulletproof and I wanted in. So I decided then and there I was going to freelance my 20 hours a week, but every second of free time I had outside of it, I was going to learn Feng Shui. And that is how the skeptic became the student. So next week, we're going to explore what Feng Shui is so you have a better idea of what it isn't. Because whether you realize it or not, Feng Shui is something that everyone is already practicing. And hey, if you're curious to give any of this a whirl, all the suggestions I shared with you today are yours for the taking. And that's our episode, my loves. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to head over to simpleshui.com if you're craving a bigger serving of house love. And if you like what you're hearing, I hope you follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you love what you're learning, will you leave me a review? Your note will totally make my day and help even more people find the show. Have a fabulous day, and I can't wait to meet you back here next week.